Well, people want to see me rant. Merry Christmas. Happy Halloween. Whatever holiday we're getting to, this is going to be a bit of a bitch fest. So I'm going to preference this by I started this movie fairly intoxicated last night, and I still fucking hated this thing. Let's talk about HBO's newest fucking movie. They shit it out because they fucking needed content. And actually had a great director attached to that they just fucking disregarded to take whatever this piece of shit was and put it on the streaming service and waste 2 fucking hours of my life that I'll never get back. Salem's Lot. This movie, okay, first of all, fucking 3 out of 10. I fucking hate this movie. I will tell you the only reason why this movie scores points. So, I'm going to preference this by stating Stephen King is one of my favorite authors of all time. Stephen King was one of the first books as a child I learned to read. Education really helped. No, Stephen King was one of the first authors I read. Actually, my first book was The Secret of NIMH a long time ago. And then Lord of the Rings. And then as I got into horror, Stephen King was my entry into that. And one of Stephen King's novels that I really love is a novel called Salem's Lot. And since 1979, they cannot fucking adapt this movie to save their lives. I think Robert Eggers' Nosferatu is the closest we're going to get to seeing Salem's Lot actually fucking adapted. And I'm going to be quite honest, I do not like any of the versions that they've ever put out for this. They've either condensed the story, they've gotten rid of characters that are important, or the vampire designs are god-awful. This movie is so infuriating. I can't even put into words. So Salem's Lot is the story about a place in Maine, which most King novels take place in, called Jerusalem's Lot, which slowly becomes infected by vampires. Now, the thing I like about these vampires are they're the old school vampires. The premise is very scary. The thing that this movie has, and why I'm so actually surprised, because it's produced by James Wan and directed by Gary Derberman, who I think Gary Derberman, he did, that explains it. Holy shit. He did every fucking movie in the Conjuring universe I hate. I didn't even know that. He did, Annabelle Creation I like, but The Nun was fucking atrocious. Annabelle Comes Home was atrocious. The original Annabelle was atrocious. This guy did the worst fucking Conjuring movies. That explains so much. This movie is not good. It's not good at all. Hey, I'm doing good. I'm just going to rant a little bit about Salem's Lot. I won't spoil anything. So Salem's Lot just dropped on HBO Max, and I watched it last night. And hello, how are you? Thank you for joining me. Welcome to my rant on Salem's Lot. So Salem's Lot just dropped, and it dropped October 3rd. I watched it last night, and I was quite intoxicated. And I already could pick out the things wrong with this movie. So before I get into my good and my bad and all that, I want to get into the production history because I think that it's important to explain why this movie fucking sucks. This movie apparently was in production since COVID-19 and has been passed along like a hot potato amongst different directors. Originally, James Wan and somebody else was attached to do this as a feature-length film. Max had the property, and they said, fuck that. They took it and made it a streaming movie. And thank God, because if I went to the theaters to see this piece of shit, I would have asked for a refund. This movie, where do I fucking start with this movie? First of all, this movie looks too clean, okay? Now, I want to go to It Chapter 1 because I know people have their feelings about Chapter 2. I don't much care for it. But when you shoot a movie in the 70s, it should feel like the 70s. I watched about a good 30 minutes of this movie until I figured out what fucking time period it is. Now they have the cars and they have the dress design, but nobody talks like they're in the 70s. There's none of the lingo you get that normally when people are adapting a Stephen King movie in that time period talk like. Nobody talks like that. They don't say modern terms, but they don't have any of the mannerisms or things you would expect from that time period. So for a good chunk of this movie, I was confused. The other thing about this movie is that the dialogue feels generic, very generic. There's no substance to it. There's no style. There's no flair. There's only one fucking character I like in this movie, and it's this 8-year-old little kid played by... Who's this kid? I'm so pissed off. I got the playlist here. No, not him. That's the main bad guy. No, not Derek Myers. I didn't even know he was... I'm so mad right now. Oh my god. Okay, no, not Billy Camp. I think it's Jordan Preston, maybe. Jordan Preston does one of the kids. This movie. Oh my god. So the thing that shocks me about this movie is the person who's playing who's playing these bad guys. Like, you have John Philip Asbæk, who's a Danish actor, and if you know him, he was in Game of Thrones. He's a pretty good actor. He plays Richard Stark, who brings the titular villain of Barlow to town. And the only other positive I have is the little 8-year-old kid who's in this with glasses. I forget his name. He's pretty good, and the vampire creature designs are good, and the violence is okay. Other than that, most of this is going to be my negatives. So my negatives are everything. There's supposed to be a love story here between Susan Norton and our main character, Ben Mears. I don't buy it at all. They have a terrible connection. It's just god awful. Yes, Mark. There we go. Thank you, Mark. That's who I was thinking of. Thank you, Perp. Yeah. That's a little kid I was probably thinking of. He's the only person that's acting in this movie. Is the little kid. The rest of the actors are just like sleepwalking through this movie. Even the person who's supposed to be the main character, played by Lewis Pullman, who's pretty decent. I've seen him in a couple of movies. The Bad Time at the Royale, which is one of my favorite underrated films. The Ballad of Lefty Brown was pretty good. Strangers Pray at Night was terrible. He's just like such a generic non-character, and by the time you get to the end of the movie and you're supposed to buy that he's going to be this big person who's going to save the town, I just don't buy it. The love story between him and Mackenzie Lee, who plays Susie Norton, is weak. The doctor, I did not like her character. And unfortunately, the doctor is played by a pretty good actress, Alfre Woodard. She's pretty good. She has won several awards. She's very good in these roles. In this, she really tries hard, but the script just gives her nothing to work with. Now, here's the thing. The atmosphere in this is very creepy, especially towards the ending. I actually had to stop it and finish it tonight. The atmosphere and the way the vampires set up near the end of the movie is pretty cool. They do a lot of things with mist and the dark and the way the vampires all gather. And that's the thing that sucks, because the vampire action in this movie is very creepy. It's very good. When the vampires start coming and fucking people up, it's watchable. But just the rest of it is painfully terrible. I don't know what went wrong. This now that I know the guy who made that fucking god-awful movie, The Nun, made this explains the pacing of the first half of this movie, because if you guys sat through that piece of shit, The Nun, that movie was terribly fucking paced. The first end of The Nun was so fucking boring, I was falling asleep if it wasn't for the fucking aesthetics of like the church, and the way they shot that was visually great. But this director, I don't even know if he wrote this, but it's just painful to watch. It is fucking boring. I mean, there's no jump scares like in the other movies that this dude has made, but there's no. He tries to subtly scare the audience without doing big visual or big auditory noises, but it just doesn't work for me. It's just so fucking bland. This movie is bland. And then it tries to pick up in the back half. I think literally the first hour of this movie is just boring talk, trying to set up characters that I know are going to fucking die, but there's no emotional connection to anybody. So I really don't give a shit about anybody. And I hate this because one of my favorite actors, William Sadler, who's in a lot of Stephen King movies, he's a great old school actor. And he played in one of Stephen King's best adapted movies, The Shawshank Redemption. And this man can act, but he's given fucking nothing, absolutely nothing to work with. And I want to like him because it's William Sadler, and he's such an amazing actor. And he tries so hard to play this sheriff who doesn't give a shit about the town, and he's retiring, and he just wants to get the fuck out of town. And the only part that was good for him was like near the end where he's like, I know what's going on. It's vampires. I'm getting the fuck out of here, and you should too. And he's the only motherfucker in this movie that makes sense. Like, yes. And, you know, fuck it, spoilers. Nobody should watch this movie, but they fucking kill him in the most unceremonious way. And I don't want to spoil anything, but don't watch this movie. Don't even waste your fucking time to see this shit free. It's 2 hours you won't get back. I'm sorry, but I got to go. I want to stay. Oh yeah, you can catch it on the redo. It's not October 23rd, so I'm just wondering. No, it's supposed to. It came out October 3rd. I guess they released it early. I don't know if it was supposed to come out later. I know. I was anticipating this movie, and it just dropped last night. So I was like, oh, it's on. And so I watched it. I don't know if it was supposed to have a different release date or not. It doesn't say anything about this, but anyways, this was just so bad. Some people here, according to this, were supposed to compose the movie. It looks like the production for this was a shit show. They lost their principal photographer, and they also lost the person who was supposed to score the film from The Nun, Nathan Baer and Elizabeth Scott. They composed most of the music, and then it was changed up. Durbin said he shortened the film. God, it was supposed to be 3 hours? Are you fucking kidding me? I barely sat through fucking 2 hours of this. Yeah, and then it said a spokesman for HBO decided during COVID that instead of releasing this film into movies, that they are going to distribute it as exclusive content for Max. And they decided this in October 2021, and it was switched and scheduled to October 2024. And it had a very poor reception when it was released. Yeah, I don't blame them. It's got like 48%. That's from the audience and critics, and a 5.5 on IMDb. Yeah, and I understand why. The problem with this movie is this movie is just generic. This movie is a generic mess of a film. Yeah, the positives for this, it's decently shot, but that's also a negative because it's too clean. It does not feel like the 70s at all. The vampires are shot really well. The practical effects for the vampires are good. The lead vampire, Barlow, looks decent enough. It's very scary. But honestly, this movie is the worst horror that I've seen this year, to be quite honest. This is the worst horror film I've watched, probably in the past 2 years. So yeah, I give this a 3 out of 10. It gets 3 points purely for the aesthetics and for the little kid Mark. He held this movie on his back. He was the most interesting character. He had the most growth. Every other character is just doctor, writer guy, love interest, sheriff who's given up on the town, preacher who's lost his faith. This fucking director is so terrible because he takes every character in every movie I've ever watched and he boils them down to the most simple characters in a story. Like, oh, I need the doctor who figures out stuff. It's a vampire movie, so I need a priest. And this dude makes priests fucking terrible. It's the same. I swear in The Nun, I saw the same fucking generic priest who lost faith. I don't believe in God. I face ultimate evil. And oh, I'm consumed because I've lost my faith. I've seen this shit so many fucking times. Or doctor person who believes in science. This isn't real. Oh, I saw the supernatural thing. I guess it's real. Now I'm on board. Fuck this movie. Fuck this movie so bad. I've never watched a movie where I was drunk and I'm sitting there going, even drunk, I can't enjoy this fucking film. I turned it off. I was just so fucking tired. I will continue this shit show tomorrow. And I woke up, I got my cup of coffee, I sat back and I finished the rest of this piece of shit so that you guys don't have to watch it. So HBO Max has a new episode of The Penguin coming out tonight. Watch that. Don't watch this fucking bullshit. Don't waste your time. And we're this fucking director, Gary, stop fucking up movies for me, Gary. Please stop it, okay? Every fucking movie this Gary Duberman has made has been a fucking piece of shit, except for one movie he didn't write. So, I don't know. Gary, fucking hang up your hat or go back to making shitty Conjuring Universe movies that nobody gives a fuck about because you can't fucking direct. It's amazing. In the comments below, let me know, have you seen Salem's Lot streaming on Max? Or are you excited tonight for the new episode of Penguin, episode 3? You know what, people? Just tell me in the comments, are you excited for Penguin episode 3? Because I'm going to assume nobody is going to watch this fucking movie except for me. And hopefully one day somebody adapts this fucking book to a watchable film. I think the closest thing I ever got to a satisfying Salem's Lot is the 3-part miniseries with Rob Lowe. So, thank you, Christine. This was an angry rant. I'm very passionate about Stephen King movies, and to be quite honest with you, either they adapt Stephen King super fucking horrible, or they give us something like The Shawshank Redemption. And I don't know. I just don't know. This wasn't it. Max fucked this up. The only good thing that happened about this movie is it went straight to streaming. This definitely should not be released in theaters. The fact that there's a 3-hour cut of this movie somewhere blows my fucking mind. I mean, just imagine. I suffered through 2 hours. Somewhere in the universe, there is a 3-hour cut of this movie. Christ. The poor bastard who had to edit this. I do not envy them whatsoever. They literally cut an hour out of this movie. That is fucking wild to me, because I can't imagine sitting through an extra hour of this fucking slog. This is a bad movie. Now, do I put it on the level of Borderlands? I don't know. It'll definitely be in my worst movies, but I mean, Madam Web, Borderlands, I could actually just mock. This just annoyed the shit out of me. So, anyways, thank you everybody for watching. Hit that like, share, subscribe. Tell me what movie you're looking forward to. Later today at 3 my time, I will have the amazing Justin Proper on. We will talk spoilers for the Joker 2, which should be interesting because I'm the only person apparently on YouTube who likes the new Joker movie. Justin has a vastly different opinion, and we're just going to give you guys our perspectives, full-on spoilers, and break down the movie and tell you the parts we like, what we didn't like, and all of that jazz. So join me later today at 3. I will have that up for you, and you guys can go and check it out and see me and Justin battle it out, our points together. He disliked it a lot more than I did, so apparently I'm on an island. But you know what? At least with that movie, I actually enjoyed it. This movie was fucking painful. It was so bad. Thank you, everybody. And as always, remember, there is only one rule here in the Fandom Zone: kneel before General Zod.